I was gonna point this out last episode, since it technically happens then, but to be fair, it would be weird to put this in isolation at the end of that video, but this is contrived as fuck. Like, if this doesn't happen, then Kazuya doesn't find out Ichinose is Chizuru, so he doesn't find out Chizuru is his neighbor, which leads to so much of the conflict in this show. So the fact that all of it is set up on something this contrived just gets on my nerves.
It's nothing. I just spaced out.
Though I do have to hand it to the writers. They actually can write male relationships. A shame these two are literally unimportant as fuck, and Kazuya is the literal reason why bros over hoes is a saying.
Virgin's gonna virgin.
But that being said, why do they have Kuri say this, since he is later said to be a virgin, and as lame as Kazuya? So this just comes off as really weird and hypocritical. And before you say I'm quoting this out of context, yes, I'm aware he gets called out on it, but my problem is purely that the joke of him being a hypocrite is not worth more than the character destruction done here, so I would have rather they flip these lines around is all. Ah yes, when Rent-A-Girlfriend has people hiding, and fails to understand that hiding behind a wall means you might not be seen by the person you're hiding from, but someone else will definitely see you. Now, this isn't the most prevalent example, so I'll keep bringing it up as we go along. But just know that this really gets on my nerves as we go along. Is she high? Like, I know Kazuya could have figured out it was you, but like, what guy would say to his bros, yeah, that girl we just saw? She's a rental girlfriend I've rented out a couple of times. Like, I know you'd get impacted at all because Kuri and Kibe would be too busy ripping on Kazuya for being so pathetic. Like, this is just gonna draw attention to her. Like, what if Kuri or Kibe turned around for some reason and saw this? Like, it's pretty contrived that this random room happened to be free at this moment. It's pretty contrived that the hallway was empty at the exact moment it needed to be for Chizuru not to get caught. And it's pretty stupid how Chizuru thought that this was a logical decision. Like, this is just stupid. This really shows you that not only has this show learned nothing from episode 1, but it will continue to learn nothing, because it just doesn't know how to write.
That's my secret, and I'm keeping it.
Really effective method of trying to keep it, you know, bluntly admitting to someone you know has no critical thinking skills, in case they not only use their brain to figure it out, and they would be fine to admit that they've used a rental girlfriend service. Like, throughout the show, Chizuru constantly says how much she wants to keep a secret, but her actions always show the complete opposite.
I don't want people talking about me behind my back.
Really? That's the reason? Not how your job is literally to date guys and pretend to like them? Like, even if people don't know you're a rental girlfriend, they will still talk about you behind your back. Like, how do you have the obvious reason right there on the table, and then you throw the table in the trash and use one of the garbage bags you took out to make room?
I avoid dates anywhere near the school.
So here's a question. How? Like, is it a requirement for clients to put their address? In which case, while it makes sense why you would have avoided this up until now, it wouldn't make sense why you still went along with Kazuya. And if you don't get the person's address, how have you managed to never get a date from someone who goes to the college, when you clearly only date people in your area? Once again, this show just expects you to take anything it says at face value and doesn't take the 2 microseconds to realize that what it's writing makes no sense.
This makes my entire strategy meaningless.
Strategy. Seems pretty shit to me, dog, if I'm being real. I mean, any strategy based entirely on luck is pretty bad, but this is especially based on luck, considering you need to never go on a date with someone near the school, and never have someone introduce you to someone at the school and have them work it out.
See that you never hit the I agree and confirm buttons again.
But what if he does? What's the plan then? Like, I know he's a simp and probably would do what you say, but how do you know that? He could just rent you anyway and you can't stop him. And how does that even help? Like, he already knows you're a rental, he knows your grandmother, like, he knows everything there is to know. So at this point, you can't actually stop him from spilling the beans, so telling him never to date you again is utterly pointless. Now, while this isn't exactly the premise, I think this is a decent time to introduce another premise, known as inconsistent characterization. Basically, it's when a character acts one way and then acts another way for no explained reason. However, in this case, I'm expanding it to when a story completely contradicts previously shown pieces of information. So, Kazuya came home from 2 dates and has seemingly been living here for a while, and yet has somehow never run into his next door neighbor. Why this pisses me off is it feels like for the rest of the fucking show, these two have perfectly synchronized schedules, so it's a goddamn miracle that they never ran into each other. Now, to be clear, the reason I'm complaining about this is if Chizuru had run into him at some point, then saw his request, she probably would have gone, hey, that's my neighbor. No way I can accept because then he'll know everything. Like, how can you write 2 minutes of just pure contradiction?
Wait!
So, another thing that happens constantly is Kazuya yelling in an apartment complex and failing to realize why that's a stupid idea.
The hell? That's not fair. It's not like I'm stalking her.
Wow, this is how you know Chizuru has no brain cells in this episode. Because I'm on Kazuya's side here. That is not fair in the slightest. Why? Because he lives here, and he goes to your college, so how can he definitely avoid seeing you? I mean, he doesn't know your schedule at home, or your degree. For all you know, he could literally be taking all the same papers as you. It is impossible for Kazuya to avoid you with the information he has right now. So this line is going to become very, very ironic later down the line, so stay tuned for that.
Huh? Have you lost your damn mind?
I mean, he has, but considering your actions at the start of the episode, I wouldn't really be throwing stones right now, if I'm being honest.
Not my problem.
Exactly, bro. Holy shit, man, it's your fault she's gonna get hurt, because you could have just gone with the story that she was a friend from college. Then you wouldn't have had to go through all this.
Just this one time?
And what happens after this one time? Like, you will still have to have the conversation eventually, because even if you always book Chizuru for these meetups, you don't have a job, so you'll eventually run out of money, or your parents will see your horrific financial decisions, and you'll probably have to stop paying her, meaning you'll still have to have this conversation later anyway.
Article 3C of the user agreement.
Actually, well done. This is one of the only times they actually use this premise effectively, and not doing the stupid vague shit I was talking about in episode 1. So at least they made one teeny tiny improvement. However, there's one thing I'm curious about, and this is just a comment question, not necessarily a critique. Do you think they have that there for HR, or so the agency always knows when a date is arranged, so they can always take a cut of their money from the rental girlfriends? Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments, though it would probably be the first since this agency seems really terrible at getting the money, considering their procedures. Why are you so mad? There was like a 0% chance that would work, man. Sorry to burst your bubble. Like, you're violating contracts, her personal space at the same time, while your justification is that of a sorry little pussy.
She's as sharp as ever.
And it's not like you spent long cleaning up, since you spent a lot of the time trying to convince Chizuru to do you a favor. What is Albert Einstein's definition of insanity, Kazuya? Like, I get trying once. It's a long shot, but there isn't really a punish, since she never wants to see you again anyway. But now, you are just harassing her and making her more and more likely to run in there and do the breakup for you just to shut you off.
In 10 seconds, I'm calling the cops on you!
Don't you? Or at least your agency, because this is some severe harassment. You'll see this over and over, but this show seems to let Kazuya harass the shit out of people, and while it lets the people he's harassing pay lip service to the potential repercussions, he never gets even the slightest bit punished, which is really annoying, because it shows that as a writer, you want the character to be able to do whatever you want them to, while making the viewer think that you're aware of the problems, which doesn't work and makes the writers look even stupider than they already are.
We did go on a date before!
Not because I wanted to!
True, what the fuck is this dialogue? Like, this is how you know the writers stacked all the cards in Chizuru's favor, and then tried to figure out how to give Kazuya points, realized he had no valid ones, and instead of rewriting the scenes to give him some leverage, just decided to let him spout stupid arguments and pretend they have some merit. That's just satisfying, I'm sorry. Especially since this is a self-insert, so it's also kind of like the writers are getting kicked right now. Real quick, I gotta say, that is the stupidest clock I've ever seen. And it isn't a traditional Japanese clock, I checked. Like, why is the 10 so far over the 11? How is that ever practical?
The two of you broke up, didn't you?
Come the fuck on, show. The worst part of this is that this scene proves that Chizuru and Kazuya could break up whenever they wanted, and there wouldn't be any consequence, which we'll circle back to when we get to Ruka.
That's no way for the heir of the Kinoshita family to act.
Shame that's not a line he ever flashes back to when he's being a fucking idiot, but hey, I guess the writers didn't think it was very noteworthy.
The truth is...
Okay, bro, that's just out of line. Why do you need to reveal her identity like that? Like, Jesus Christ, man. Do you understand why she didn't want to date someone who lived so close? Because she didn't want to get revealed. And this brings up another point. Did Chizuru step in because she was going to get revealed, or because she cared for Kazuya's grandmother? The answer given by the show is fuck you. Like, this is exactly why you need someone to review your work before you just shit it out into the world. You need someone to ask why the events in your story are happening, and why the characters do what they do, so you can get writing that isn't this bad.
Chizuru, why are you here?
I'm surprised he managed to not say Mizuhara like a complete imbecile, but you'd think he could have worked out why she was here, although maybe this is just an act he's putting on, who knows.
No more following me around or trying to talk to me. Secondly, you treat me like a stranger at school. And lastly, you only contact me through the site.
So, while it does make sense for her to lay out these rules now, it's just a damn shame that not only does Kazuya break them like there's no tomorrow after this, but Chizuru doesn't even punish him for it. So this scene really comes off as filler by the end of this season.
Hope I don't see her today.
When you want to include foreshadowing, but you're too lazy to have someone teach you how to do it. Introducing! Just literally telling the audience what's going to happen in the most blunt form possible, and saying it was foreshadowing.
Hey, how are you, Kazu?
Gotta give it to Laura Stoll on this. This voice is absolutely perfect for a fake bitch character, since it has that perfect level of friendliness that just makes her sound fake.
What do I say?
You don't have to say anything at this moment, since she just asked you a question and you answered it. And besides, this isn't really a situation in which you have to stick around.
I can't tell her how good she looks. That would be so lame.
It would be so lame. So please, for the love of God, keep your mouth shut, pick up the book, and walk off. If she calls after you, then you have an excuse to say something stupid.
Ask her why she blocked you.
I mean, you can. There is literally no reason not to, since you haven't spoke since you were dating, and she was probably expecting you to ask about that. And if you think it's too uncomfortable, then don't strain yourself by thinking about it. This is a moment that shows you a classic thing Kazuya does. Thinks about something that's logical to do, thinks he can't do it, and then thinks he needs to do it, and complains, and it always gets on my nerves so much.
You two are the ones gawking at her.
I mean, they are just trolling you for staring, man. How have you never had that, considering your terrible habits?
That one, though, probably just lies there.
Dude, shut up.
It's actually a well-delivered exchange from Alex and Nicholas Roy. Sorry if I butchered that. It really does convey the emotions so well, and makes this joke land a lot better.
The way he was staring freaked me out.
How did she see that? Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it animated as if all of Mami's friends were facing away from Kazuya? So this is either an error on the animator's part or on the writer's.
Time to go to the hospital? What were you doing?
I think it's so funny how the implication here is that Chizuru rang the doorbell and then ran to the stairwell and turned around just so she could be in this position when Kazuya opened the door. Like, why would anyone do that? Especially when they aren't doing anything remotely serious.
Kazuya?
Once again, this is just so fucking contrived. Like, it's pretty contrived that those two happen to be walking down the street at the exact moment Kazuya and Chizuru were. And, like the rest of this episode, the next few Ruka, Sumi, they don't happen if it weren't for this. So, the fact that they contrive it in such a stupid way really does just highlight how lazy these writers are.
Please don't draft poor little Kazu into your cult.
This is actually a pretty good moment. One, because of the great voice acting involved. Two, because it really does show how much the other guys care for him. And three, because it does a decent job at justifying this outburst, unlike the first one.
My girlfriend.
This time I don't mind the stupid decision from Kazuya, Because to be fair, I think Chizuru would rather be Kazuya's girlfriend than a cultist. Though, to be honest with you, that would be a tough choice for me. Dude, why are you looking back as if A, you didn't already do it without her consultation, and B, as if you haven't already done it before and had her go along with it? Like, at this point, she can't really stop you, because if she does, then she just makes the interaction go off the rails really fast.
You lose your virginity to a babe like that, you'll never forget her!
Nice of them to bring this point up here, and it is cool to have Kuri and Kibe show some genuine concern for their mate's future, and, well, they do a good job with these male relationships at the very least.
What the hell is wrong with you? Don't you ever get tired of telling people these stupid lies?
The problem with this line is that, logically, this outburst is less justified by the fact that the other guys were causing a massive scene before, and thus this line makes a lot more sense to tell. It really makes you think that the good moment they got before was purely accidental.
I know that!
Oh my god, Alex, you are seriously committed, man. Unfortunately, you got stuck with such a goddamn horrible script, but at least you're using it like a champ.
Honestly had no idea.
How? Like, holy shit, man, this is just Contrivance City out here. Like, how did you not know? And again, the reason I always point this out is because a contrivance in a serialized show leads to the whole plot afterwards effectively being contrived. Like, if Mami wasn't here, she wouldn't see Chizuru and find out about the rental girlfriend thing later. Although, to be fair, the consequences of this aren't as bad as some of the other ones, so I could let it slide, but the point is that this writing is consistently lazy and consistently stupid.
This is so bad. I just want to get out of here and go home like yesterday.
I mean, you reap what you sow, man. It was your fault you came here, so it's your fault that this had to happen. Well, okay, it's technically the writer's fault for contriving this, but Kazuya does not get to complain about that.
I'm not the bad guy here.
I would say it depends on who you're using as a reference point, because if you're Chizuru in this situation, bro, you are so the bad guy right now.
She's moved on from me?
This is probably the most prevalent running theme throughout the show, but that's continuity errors. In episode 1, she very clearly tells him that she's leaving him for someone else, and yet here he is surprised for some reason, and they just stick with this next episode, which really just shows how the show doesn't care about anything it's told the audience. And the main problem with this is it completely removes the stakes from the show, as consequences feel non-existent, so it makes it far harder for you to invest in future plot points.
If I didn't agree to the terms of service...
Weird to talk about agreeing to the terms of service as the thing that you need to do, since it's easy as fuck, and not the fact that you're constantly setting your money alight to go on dates with her, but I guess good writing is hard, lazy writing is easy.
Problem is, Kazu doesn't have any experience.
This is one of the most bizarre conversations to have in public. This is the writers just don't have situational awareness, because they need a big crowd to contrive this scenario, but don't think about whether or not a socially intelligent person would have this discussion here.
If that's how you remember it,
To be fair, I don't know how you actually handle this if you're Kazuya, so I guess I should probably just say well done for making a decision I can't call idiotic.
I'm leaving.
So my problem with this moment is an underlying problem with Chizuru's character we'll cover later, but the problem with this is, why did she storm off? To sell the act to them? Because she was genuinely pissed off? Because she found out she had a perfect excuse to leave? We never know, because the show never tells us, and thus we never have a real reason to care about her as a character, despite all the screen time they give her in this season. The reason I think this episode pissed me off as much as the previous, when writing the script, is because it's trying to show us new things about Kazuya and Chizuru, as well as introducing Kazuya's mates and Mami, and it's failing just as bad at the first two, and last time it was really only failing to introduce them, whereas now it's failing to develop them. And while it's succeeding pretty well in introducing Kazuya's friends, and the introduction of Mami isn't that bad, it does just get on your nerves a bit more when you realize that the show will learn nothing from the mistakes of the previous episode. Well, hope this video wasn't too long, and I hope you'll join me for episode 3. See ya!